More Africans have electricity, but they're using less of it. This is The Economist. Tourists have long been drawn to Hell's Gate National Park in Kenya by its steep cliffs, plentiful zebras, and spectacular canyons. Recently, there is a new attraction, a spa set amid the cliffs, with a huge pool heated by the energy stored in the Earth's crust. Curiously, it is not run by a tourist company, but by Kengen, the national electricity generator. It abuts the Olkaria geothermal power plants, for which plumes of steam pour into the sky. Since 1982, 4 power stations have opened there. A 5th is being built, and work on a 6th will begin soon. Energy harvested from volcanic heat now provides almost half the power Kenya needs. Electrification has been one of the country's great successes over the past decades. It is not just new generators, the number of people connected to the power network has also soared. According to the Kenya Power Lighting Company, nearly 3/4 of Kenyans are now connected, up from barely a quarter in 2013. Trend in many African countries has been in the same direction. According to the World Bank, the proportion of Africans with access to electricity increased from 19% in 1991 to 37% in 2014. Yet this achievement is not quite as impressive as it may sound. More people than ever may be connected to the electricity, but they're not using it much. In 2014, each African consumed on average just 483 kilowatt hours. That is less than in the 1980s. Americans, by comparison, used almost 13,000 kilowatt hours each. In Kenya, electricity use per person rose by just 10% between 2010 and 2014, even as the number of people connected more than doubled. The weakness of demand is on the face of it somewhat puzzling. Sub-Saharan Africa, with 1 billion people, generates less electricity than South Korea. Nigeria, the region's most populous country, produces less than half as much as Romania, despite having almost 10 times more people. This has long been assumed to be because of weak supply. All over Africa, rich residents of big cities keep generators fueled with diesel, and large firms build their own power stations alongside new factories. A lack of electricity is widely thought to be one of the main obstacles to economic growth. Yet producing more power does little if people are unwilling or unable to pay for it. Earlier this year, officials at KPLC said that almost 1 million customers who are connected to the grid have bought no power at all. That's an interesting conundrum. Worldwide, power consumption is strongly correlated to GDP, but in Africa, most countries use less power than their incomes would predict. This is largely because Africa has so little manufacturing and heavy industry. If electrification programs continue to focus on rural areas, utilities may be too cash-strapped to maintain the grid where it really matters, in cities and industrial regions where investors are building factories. Without industrialization and good jobs, few Africans will be able to afford much more electricity. That is real powerlessness.